Imagine a world where every thought you have is gently guided, nudged, filtered, trimmed at the edges. A world where comfort is king and questioning the rules is quietly discouraged, where you scroll, you swipe, you consume, but rarely stop, rarely doubt, rarely think. Now imagine this world isn't some dystopian future. It's now. It's here. And you're in it. You wake up, and your first thoughts are not your own. They've been preloaded. Headlines, opinions, ads, images, all speaking for you before you've had a chance to listen to yourself. Even silence has been colonized. Try sitting with it. No phone, no noise, no agenda. And feel the panic crawl in. What if thinking deeply, truly thinking, has become a threat in a world built on distraction? What if the more awake you become, the harder it is to belong? What if you're not broken or behind, but simply awake in a sleeping world? Why is it that in an age of information, ignorance feels safer? Why do we fear thought more than we fear deception? This is the tension we explore today. The world doesn't want you to think, and Nietzsche understood why. In this video, we're going to dive into that uncomfortable truth. We'll explore how society conditions us to avoid thinking, how comfort can be more dangerous than pain, and why philosophers like Friedrich Nietzsche saw deep thought not as a luxury, but as a form of rebellion. By the end, you may never look at your own thoughts the same way again. And maybe, just maybe, that's the beginning of something real. Friedrich Nietzsche was not a man who fit in. He walked alone, both literally and philosophically. Often sick, nearly blind, misunderstood. He wrote with fire in a world soaked in conformity. To him, thought wasn't an intellectual exercise. It was survival. It was oxygen. It was blood. He once wrote, "The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe." That sentence is more than a warning. It's a mirror. Nietzsche saw that most people don't really want to think. They want to be told what's good, what's safe, what's acceptable. But once you start thinking, truly thinking, you can't unsee the illusions. You lose the comfort of certainty, but gain something deeper, the possibility of becoming yourself. And that is where we begin. But what does this actually look like today? It's in the moment you reach for your phone, the second you're alone. In the curated scroll of other people's lives, where silence is the enemy. It's in the algorithms that know your desires better than you do, offloading your attention, repackaging your curiosity, selling it back to you as dopamine hits and bite-sized outrage. Our world isn't built for thinkers. It's built for consumers of content, of products, of ideas we didn't generate, but were taught to repeat. You can question a TV show, but question your career, your beliefs, your culture. That's dangerous. Better to keep scrolling. Better to keep buying. Better to feel entertained than to feel uneasy. And yet, don't you sometimes feel it? That quiet ache behind the noise. That tug when you lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering if you're living your life, or just performing it. There's a reason this is so hard. It's not just culture, it's biology. Our brains are wired to avoid pain and seek comfort. And thinking, real, deep, disruptive thinking, is painful. It forces us to confront uncertainty, contradiction, even our own insignificance. Robert Sapolsky, a neuroscientist and author of Behave, talks about how the brain resists ambiguity. It craves order, even if that order is false. We'd rather cling to simple answers than face the anxiety of not knowing. Add dopamine to the equation, our brain's favorite reward chemical, and you get the perfect trap. Short-form videos, instant messages, constant novelty. Each one gives us a hit. Each one makes thinking harder the next time. There's a concept in psychology called cognitive ease, the idea that we prefer thoughts that feel smooth, familiar, unchallenging. But ease is a liar. Ease tells us we understand something when we've only skimmed it. It tells us we're happy when we're just distracted. And so we build entire lives around avoiding friction. But Nietzsche knew that growth demands friction. He said, "One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star." The chaos he speaks of isn't dysfunction, it's awakening. But awakening comes with a cost. So let me ask you something. When was the last time you sat in stillness? No agenda, no screen, no soundtrack, and let your mind wander. Not to-do lists, not daydreams. I mean real wandering, dangerous wandering, where you might uncover something about yourself that scares you. Do you avoid that silence? Do you fear what might surface if you stopped distracting and started listening? Are you really tired, or just unfulfilled? Are you really busy, or just afraid to be still? This isn't judgment, it's an invitation, because somewhere underneath the noise and the numbness, you are still in there, and that's where we're heading next, and you're not alone in feeling this. Nietzsche may have shouted the loudest, but he wasn't the only one whispering this truth. Arthur Schopenhauer, dark and unflinching, believed that most human activity is driven by blind will, not reason. He wrote, "A man can do what he wills, but he cannot will what he wills." In other words, most of what we call choice is just unconscious programming. We think we're thinking, but we're reacting, recycling, replaying. Jiddu Krishnamurti, decades later, put it more gently but just as sharply. It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. He saw that society rewards noise, not clarity. Compliance, not curiosity. And when everyone around you is numbed by the same distractions, you start to believe that numbness is normal. Even Hannah Arendt, reflecting on the horrors of the 20th century, warned about the banality of evil. Not monstrous villains, but ordinary people who stopped thinking, who traded conscience for convenience, who simply followed the script. This isn't just a personal struggle, it's a global one. Look around. We live in a world where anxiety is an epidemic, despite having more comfort than any generation before us, where depression rates rise as screens get brighter, where we're more connected than ever, but lonelier, emptier, more unsure of who we are. In a 2021 study by Harvard, over 47% of people reported spending their waking hours in a state of mind wandering. Not focused, not present, just drifting. And here's the terrifying part. The more distracted we become, the easier we are to control. Not by some evil mastermind, but by a system that profits from our passivity. Governments, advertisers, influencers, they all depend on your autopilot, on your need to be entertained instead of engaged. The cost? You lose the thread of your life. You stop being the author and start being the character. You don't feel fully alive, you just feel occupied. But what if you noticed? What if you paused, mid-scroll, mid-thought, and asked, is this mine? Is this belief mine? Is this desire mine? Is this fear even mine? That's the first fracture in the illusion. Not a revolution, just a whisper. Wake up. Because waking up doesn't always look like enlightenment. Sometimes it looks like discomfort, like confusion, like stepping into a world you no longer recognize. But for the first time, you're actually seeing. And if you're here, still watching, still listening, maybe you're already beginning. But if all of this is true, if the world doesn't want you to think, what happens when you do it anyway? Imagine a different kind of life. Not louder, not busier, clearer. A life where your thoughts are your own, where silence isn't scary, but sacred, where you wake up, not to scroll, but to see. To notice the way the morning light lands on your skin, to feel the strange beauty of simply being alive, unfiltered, undistracted, unapologetically awake. This is not the easy path, but it is the free one, because freedom isn't found in doing whatever you want. It's found in knowing why you want it at all. So where do you begin? You begin in the small, forgotten spaces of your day. Sit in stillness for 5 minutes, with no phone, no music, no escape. Let whatever's inside you arrive, without judgment. Ask one dangerous question a day. Not a practical one, but a real one. Why am I chasing this? What if I stopped pretending? What do I know that I'm afraid to admit? Replace passive consumption with deliberate creation. Write, walk, speak, reflect. Let your inner world produce something, even if no one ever sees it. That's how the self is reclaimed. Not in noise, but in making. And above all, notice when the world is trying to sedate you. Comfort isn't always kind. Some forms of peace are just quiet prisons. Nietzsche said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." But before you can find your why, you must think. Not what you're told to think, but what you, in the stillness of your own soul, believe. So, imagine a world where everyone thought for themselves, where attention wasn't bought and truth wasn't buried beneath convenience, where your life wasn't a performance, but a process of becoming. That world begins the moment you ask, what if I stopped sleeping with my eyes open? What would I see then? And would I ever be able to go back? If this found you at the right time, write in the comments, "I am no longer asleep in my own mind." That's how I'll know you've started listening to the quiet voice beneath the noise. Tell me what you've been avoiding, what thought won't leave you alone, what truth you've been circling. This isn't entertainment, it's excavation, and the next step is already waiting for you. Don't let the world pull you back under. Go to the next video. It's part of the same awakening.